It's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy and Ascension forecast for Sunday, September 18th to Saturday, September 24th. So last week we had a relatively quiet and calm week, astrologically speaking, of course. We needed that downtime in order to figure things out from all the emotions that got triggered from that full moon in Pisces. Of course, we are building towards the last quarter moon in Gemini energy that will be direct on Saturday afternoon. And with that comes a lot of mental and emotional processing. Now, I say calm and quiet hesitantly because, as you know, there has been a blackout on the Schumann Resonance, but that does not mean that we have not been receiving the energy, the light codes coming in from the solar flares and CMEs popping off from the sun. It has been very active, and for those of us that are awakened light workers, we don't need a Schumann resonance to tell us when the energy is fluctuating and coming in and hitting us at our peak energies, because we can feel it. And for many of us, we were definitely feeling it in the Ascension symptoms that definitely popped up in our physical forms over this past week. And those energies, those Ascension symptoms will likely continue through this week. Why? Well, this week, we are wrapping up the very last week of Virgo season. Now, this is going to come as a happy thing for many people because Lord knows this earth energy being low, being slow, having us connected to our physical bodies, to our physical circumstances and our physical realms is getting to be a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit much. Now, granted, Virgo season is all about really reprocessing. Again, Mercury being Virgo's ruler in a retrograde has us reprocessing, reflecting, revising, re-editing, recalibrating, and realigning. In Virgo energy, we are looking to focus in on the smaller details of our lives in order to figure out what is broken, what needs a little bit more discipline, more structure, more strength in our lives, especially where routines are concerned, to make sure that we are taking care of our physical bodies, our mental plane, our emotions. Keep in mind that Virgo energy, being the earth energy focused on healing the physical body and the physical realm, needs to balance out with the magic, with the intuition, with the soul, with the spirit of our spiritual realm. That Pisces energy sits across from Virgo energy, and it is all about striking a balance. But this last week of Virgo season is likely going to come with a lot of heaviness, a lot of challenges, a lot of anxieties, and even a lot of fear. Why? Well, anytime that we get to the final degrees of a particular energy before moving into a different sign, a different energy, we feel it on blast. Not to mention that the ending degrees of Virgo season will be the ending of a very, very important chapter that we are closing and preparing to open a brand new one as we jump into Libra season. That also triggers the equinox energy. Again, the equinox energy gives us a reset, a rebalancing of the scales, so to speak. So we have to expect that the intensities of the energy, of the chaos, of the confusion, of the physical symptoms, the physical ailments are going to reach an all-time high before we get that reset cycle button. So we want to prepare for that. Libra season and the fall equinox begins on the 22nd. And on the 22nd, it is the last day of Mercury being in Libran energy as it prepares to creep back into Virgo energy. But here's the thing. Mercury and the sun, they bump into each other. They team up. It's called a chasmy. It happens hours before Mercury retrogrades back into the 29th degree of Virgo energy. Again, its place of power. And this is all happening as we build towards the new moon in Libra that we will be having on the 25th. And it is at a 2-degree placement, which means that we are closing a 2.5-year cycle and we are beginning a brand new one. Now, this new moon is taking place relatively soon in Libra season, giving, I'm going to say, all of us an opportunity to really get in touch with the extremes of our lives, to see where the chaos is, to see where things are out of whack, to see where it is that we're lacking peace and harmony and balance, love and happiness and joy in our lives. Why? Because the Libran energy, although shows us the extremes, is here to help us find that middle ground, to find that peace, to find that harmony, to get us back in touch with the smaller things in life in order for us to find happiness and joy and pleasure regardless of what's going on in our external realm. With this Libran energy that we're moving into, we are going to feel a much lighter vibe, but we do have to keep in mind that we still have 6 planets in a retrograde and that we have a very heavy and intense focus on the elemental energy of Earth, making it very difficult. Why? Because we're having to go low and slow. We're having to stay present in our physical bodies, which many of us are very uncomfortable in these meat suits. So we do have to expect that, yeah, we're going to get a little bit of a reprieve moving into this Libran energy, but we are also going to be hella confused. We have to remember that confusion has to happen before clarity happens. We also have to remember that a breakdown is expected before a breakthrough. This breakthrough energy will take us into this new moon in Libra, and we will see the pace start to pick up just a tad as we wrap up September and we jump into what is going to be a very wild, very active October. Again, if you have not listened to the September energy forecast, I'm going to recommend you do so. If you have not listened to the energy forecast for 2022 for September, October, November, December that I put out at the beginning of the year, I'm going to recommend you do that too. Get a full cup of tea on what it is that we're going to be experiencing as we wrap up the year of 2022. If you have not downloaded your zodiac forecast for September, I'm going to recommend you do that too. So many people reach out asking why they feel a certain way, why certain situations and topics and themes are popping off in their lives. And honestly, guys, all the answers that you need are in these daily forecasts, in the zodiac forecasts for the month. There's really no reason why you should be confused about what's going on in your life. All the information, all the content is there for you. Please, please boss up, take responsibility, take accountability for yourself, do the work, research, grasp the information, prepare. There's so many tools and resources that I myself put out, let alone all of the other light workers in the world, that there's really no excuse for us to be in a situation where we feel like, you know, we're grasping at straws and just kind of going along with this chaotic ride, not knowing why this is happening. There are cycles, there are patterns, there are situations that we have to expect to have to move through before we get the clarity, before we get the breakthrough. So please do the work. Get the information in front of you, put it on repeat if you have to, and calm that mind, calm that heart space, calm those freaking nerves. So with that being said, a little bit of homework to do before I jump into my rant, before I jump into the Ascension symptoms for this week. First of all, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for liking, for sharing, for commenting. I want to thank you for contributing to me actually reaching the 4,000 subscriber mark. You guys are just freaking amazing. Sometimes I hesitate to even give a shout out at these milestones that I reach, because then you get those very interesting people that go in and unsubscribe just to watch my numbers go down and really take that milestone celebration away from me. But I've decided that if that's who you are, that's what you got to do, that's the energy that you're putting out in the universe, then by all means, do what you got to do. I am grateful for each and every single one of you for being here, for hitting all of those like, share, comment buttons. I want to thank you for smashing that thanks button. That, of course, allows you to donate in my videos. For those of you sending me little donations in the live chat, I want to thank you for that. And to all of you who have jumped over to my Patreon, thank you so much for that. I'm getting really good feedback on the Patreon site, like we talked about last week. Do not sign up to a YouTube membership. That will be disabled at the end of September. We are not jiving with the whole YouTube jam, but I would definitely welcome you to come on over to the Patreon app, get all of my notifications, get all of my content, get aligned, get ahead of the game. So here's where I'm going to kind of deviate into a little bit of a rant. I do have one, I'm going to say, additional thank you to make, but this is going to lead into my rant, so get comfortable. I want to thank you, first of all, to those of you who reached out, who, left comments last week, sending me love and support for the loss of my friend, and what I would say more of a light, a shining light in the world than just my friend. I would be lucky to consider him my friend. This was a huge loss. If you don't know who I'm talking about Pat Stay. He is, like I said, a beautiful light that the world had lost. And, this past week has definitely been an emotional one to, kind of make peace with his passing. I don't know if that's ever going to make sense, but I just want to thank you for the love and support that you all showed me. Now, that was a whole rant that I did last week. If you're interested, please go back and listen. But that rant was tied into the Queen rant. And first of all, I want to thank those of you that are on the same page, that have an open mind, that are a little bit more enlightened than, the general collective, if you will, that understood what I was talking about when it came to the Queen. Because I tell you, I took a lot of heat for what I said about the Queen. It's interesting because I always get encouraged to talk about, the real life problems going on in this 3D realm. And then the minute that I do, I get such heat, such hate coming at me for speaking my truth, coming from my perspective, my awareness, that it really is like an oxymoron to me. I don't know whether to keep speaking my truth and taking the brunt and taking the heat for my truth, my experience from, I'm going to say, unevolved people that don't understand the perspective, the vibration, the understanding that I'm speaking from, or if I should just keep my mouth shut. Now, if you know me at all, it's not likely that I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm pushing, 38, and I've yet to keep my mouth shut or bite my tongue on anything that is important to me that I feel the need to express and to share. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. But it really kind of baffles me in some situations, because there are some people in this community that, are always, sending love and sending support and, messaging me and really feeling like they're on the same vibe, and the same page. And we're just, all of like mind. And then just when I say something that they either don't agree with or don't understand, suddenly they become a hater. Suddenly I'm speaking from ego. Suddenly they feel the need to call me out on being judgmental, on, praying for me. Let me just say, it is super kind to pray for anyone. Of course, I'm not ever going to shun away prayers, but let me just say something to, I'm going to say everybody, because I'm not going to pinpoint. I had more than just one, okay? This is why I feel the need to rant about this. I had such a large quantity of people that came at me from a judgmental state, calling me judgmental for what I had to say about this Queen situation, that it baffles me how some of you all can even call yourself spiritualists, awakened beings. Let me tell you, the amount of spiritual ego that floats around in this new age and spiritual community, not just this one here, but in general, is absolutely appalling. I want to take a moment to talk about ego for just a second. First of all, a lot of people do not understand that ego is not a bad thing. Ego is not your enemy. Ego is your friend. Now, talking from this 3D realm, this matrix, this physical construct that we're stuck in, the unconscious ego, that's the not so good part. That is the shadow realm of our experience that keeps us trapped in pain and trauma and fear and doubts and insecurities. That's the unconscious ego. The conscious ego is what we're striving for. It's what we are working towards. Anybody that is walking around saying, oh no, that's too ego for me, or you're speaking from ego, or I'm going to pray for you because you're all up in your ego, you're judging from your ego, let me just tell you, has no comprehension or understanding of what this process, this spiritual healing process, is actually meant to do. Your ego is essential for your human experience. We want to awaken the ego so that it's not a repeating, unconscious looping of pieces of your upbringing and the outside world conditioning running your inner narrative. That is the unconscious ego. Yes, that is your enemy. Yes, we want to essentially put that to an ego death. You want to operate from your conscious ego, which is the observer. For all of you walking around going, oh, no. We don't live in fear. We don't live in sadness. Death is just a 3D construct, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's great. But you're also creating a situation of spiritual delusion and spiritual bypassing. This 5D idea has so many people confused and creating a toxicity in the spiritual realm and in their own soul contracts that is actually disheartening to see how many people do not understand what 5D actually is. It is not a place. It is a vibration. It's an energy. It's a state of mind. The minute that you are able to act as the observer in your own inner narrative and recognize that there is an unconscious ego telling you a bunch of crap that isn't true to keep you in the lower vibrations and frequencies, congratulations, you made it to 5D. That is the minimal, I'm going to say, access point of just merely becoming the observer. For those of you that are thinking, oh, we got to stay in high vibration, love and light. We're not going to be sad. Death is just a fake construct. You shouldn't sit in the fear. It's a choice, blah, blah, blah. You all are creating a toxic spiritual environment, okay? We have to understand that your attempt to live in the higher vibrations and frequencies without sitting in the lower realm of emotion to do the work, to break up the trauma, to basically flip the karma of your DNA, you are not doing yourself any kind of service. You are deluding the people around you that might actually listen to what it is that you have to say. And let me tell you, when you get on the other side, when you return to source, when you go through your quote unquote judgment day and you get to critique the rights and wrongs of your earthly experience, you're going to kick yourself real hard in your astral ass because you totally choked on having the human experience from the spiritual perspective. Now, what does that mean? That means that we have been placed here, chosen to be here in this time of awakening with the human collective, with the consciousness, because we are supposed to be able to have the enlightened perspective of our spiritual selves, that we are all one. We all come from the same source, that we are going to do our best to embody what unconditional love is, because that is where we come from. Where we come from, there is no pain, there is no suffering, there is no fear, there is no trauma, there is none of that. That's why we come to Earth School. If you are choosing to take this very diluted high road of that there is no pain, there is no fear, we're not going to feel bad about death or anything like that, you are really screwing up your soul contract right now, because that is not human of you. The goal is to ground your light which is only information and knowledge, okay? Let's be very clear. Your light source energy from the source that we all come from, knowing that universally we are all connected, we all come from the same source, knowing that we come to Earth School to feel these dualistic polarized energies, you have to understand that the goal is to have this human experience in this human meat suit where pain and suffering and trauma is the name of the game, and to do the work through the enlightenment process in order to transmute those lower vibrational emotions and frequencies into something higher. The reason why we're having the Great Awakening right now, the reason why there are starseeds, the reason why there are light workers is because the matrix of the 3D construct that we have been soul prisoners of for a very long time now, we need to come here and break up the karma. Karma only exists in a place that you can incur karma from. You cannot incur karma in any place that we are of wholeness. Wholeness is unconditional love. That's where we come from. When you come here acting all mightier than thou, you are sitting in a spiritual ego that you are really going to have a hard time trying to justify and make peace with when you leave this physical meat suit, these physical circumstances, and go back to source to review where it is that you effed up, okay? We are spiritual beings in a human experience. Okay, this is the goal. And as you may know, especially if you listened to last week's rant, I've had about enough of these love and lighters, okay? I've had about enough of these love and lighters. The amount of emails that I received telling me that I should know better than to be sad over the death of a friend, the death of someone who meant something, a light to this world, that I should know better to not sit in that funk because of the position and the awareness that I have as a light worker is absolutely disgusting to me, okay? I know that there's a bigger plan. I know that there's a divine construct. I know we have predetermined death dates. I know soul contracts. I can speak to the dead, okay? I understand the understanding that we have when we depart this physical realm and enter back into the spiritual realm. I get it. The amount of people that feel like they are holier than thou to not only talk down to me, but probably talk down to anybody in their realm that they can try to talk down to, that is your spiritual ego, which is just as toxic as your unconscious ego, okay? I've had about enough. I've had about enough. I have died, okay? I have died from this physical realm. I had a lot of time over in the spiritual realm before I was brought back into my body. That's why I know what I know. That's why I have the knowledge. That's why I've been put in this position. Okay, this is not something that I would choose for myself. You've listened to me talk about this many times. This is not something like, there are many people out there that are like, oh, I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, I'm a starseed, I'm a channeler. Very happy, very proud to do that. Capitalizing on people that are so freaking confused and don't have an internal compass that they are willing to fork out the money that they don't have in order to receive this fluff. Okay, I am not one of those people. I don't really feel like I like this situation, like I like this position that I have been ultimately obligated and gifted with. A blessing or a curse, I don't know. It's a long-term debate for me. But let me just say that the audacity of people is at an all-time high, not just from the spiritual community, just out in the world. The audacity is at an all-time high, and I've had about enough. So, when you feel the need to cast judgment on someone such as myself or anyone else that they are operating from a place of ego, I'm going to ask you take a deep breath and really ask yourself, at what place are you operating from to cast judgment upon another individual? Because if you're casting judgment at all, where does that come from? It sure as hell doesn't come from your higher self. It doesn't come from unconditional love. It doesn't come from any kind of space that you think that you are holier than thou operating from. So you gotta bring it down a couple of pegs. You gotta invite yourself to sit down and have a nice big cup of humble tea and realize that we are all on our own journeys. We are all at different places of our own healing adventures, of our own understanding, our own awareness, our own enlightenment. And that is not for you to speculate on, for you to judge, for you to comment on, for you to make any kind of significant, I'm going to say even queries about. Okay? This channel, when I go on my personal rants, okay, is my truth, my experience, my knowledge, my wisdom. It is not for anyone to pick apart, to judge, definitely not cast judgment upon me, thinking that I'm casting judgment upon other people. That's not what we're doing here. Okay, I would hope that we would be past this point. But apparently, after last week's rant and the feedback, the heat that I took from that, I felt it very necessary to sit down and have a little chat about the ego. For those of you on the spiritual journey that think that the ego is the enemy, please open your mind. The unconscious ego is the shadow part of all of us that we are here to heal from the conscious ego. When you act as the observer and know that there is an internalized narrative that has been rewritten in your operating system from your upbringing and from the external realm, the conditions put upon you, that means you are operating from a 5D level. That's where we can draw the line. Of course, it's good to sit in all the good feels, but 5D is about visualizing and looking to manifest a world more of love and peace and harmony and unity. But that doesn't mean that you cast judgment and you sit in hatred and you totally abandon this human experience with all of the pain and the trauma and the suffering that comes along with being a human. That's why you came here, to work out your karma, to work out your soul contract, to put yourself through certain circumstances that will push you into your power, into your own remembrance of who it is that you are, which ultimately is a part of everything and everyone that you have met and encountered in this physical realm, because you are of light source energy. We all are. That's where we will all return. So for those of you in the spiritual path that are, trying really hard to stick with the love and light and, we're not going to feel anything bad, we're not going to think bad thoughts, please understand that you're doing yourself a disservice. It is about being real and authentic and 100% every single day. If you wake up and you are battling depression, it is not doing you any kind of service to delude yourself into thinking that you live in a land of love and light where all is well. That is not addressing the issue, not addressing the problem. It is not even taking the first steps in healing, which is acknowledgement and acceptance. We are here to release ourselves from the shadows that our unconscious ego have written in their operating system. And you cannot do that from a state of delusion. So I invite you to lean the F in to this human experience, to operate from your highest potential, which is your highest self, which is your intuition, which is your spiritual self. But do not deny yourself of the human thoughts, the human emotions that come up in a human being when you go through these human experiences. Do not put that judgment on yourself, and please be sure as hell not to cast that judgment on anyone else. So I hope that clears something up. Yeah, you can tell that I'm about done. I'm about done. And we are at that point where many of us are feeling like we are about done, not with maybe this situation, but just with other topics and themes in our lives right now. May I remind you that breaking point, that boiling point, that, you know what? F it. I'm done. I'm throwing down. I got nothing left to lose. That energy is coming from the fact that we are at the ending of a very important chapter in our lives, and we are preparing to jump into a brand new one, which will be ushered in with the equinox energy when we move into Libra season. So the F it point, the boiling point, the break it point, the I've had enough of this shit point that you're listening to me kind of get at with all of these love and lighters and these spiritual bypassers and spiritual delusionists, I've had about enough. And knowing from my client list what they're going through in their human experience with families falling apart, with people dying, with legal matters coming up, with losing your jobs, with losing your house, with no sense of safety, no sense of security, no amount of clarity, with the what ifs, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of the past, and the what ifs when it comes to trying to figure out what we're going to do to move into the future. It is all taking us to a boiling point, to a breaking point, where we literally don't know how much more that we can take. And we can expect for people to lose their shit over this next week as we get to the final degrees of this Virgo energy. And as we prepare to get the reset button hit by the cosmos and the universe when we move into Libra season and the equinox energy. May I remind you that Mars, the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, but most importantly, our anger, is in Gemini energy for 7 months. This is where the confusion comes from. This is where the want, need, and desire to judge, to debate, to fight, to have conflicts, to have confrontations, to speak one's truth, to not allow other people's words to cut any kind of depth into our heart, to our head, to our soul, where all of this energy is coming from. And Mars is in his pre-shadow period. He will be going retrograde in October. And let me tell you, we are going to see a whole lot of confusion, of cluster Fs, of emotion, of anger, of frustration, of irritation, not only in our own individual lives, but coming from the collective as well. Okay? You have to understand the cycles and the patterns that we're in with this current energy in order to understand what it is that we can expect so that we don't lose our shit while we're going through it, and what it is that we're actually working towards. We have to clear this karma. We have to clear this anger. We have to get very clear, very defined on what it is that we want. Mars being in Gemini energy, Mars is our passion, our desires, the direction that we want to take in order to get determined and motivated and inspired to pursue what it is that is our soul's mission, our soul's purpose. But in Gemini energy, we're divided. There's pros, there's cons, there's extreme choices, decisions, paths, directions to take, and we're angry, we're frustrated, we just want to move forward, but we're stuck in this internalized intellectual battlefield that Mars has to fight his way through for the next 7 months before we're going to end up on the other side of it, which of course puts us in a good position to not only identify the path that we want to take, not only are we going to become a little bit more certain with our passions, with our desires, and with our direction, but we are tapping into a brand new warrior-like energy where we're not going to let other people's thoughts, ideas, comments, feelings get in the way of us truly aligning with what our soul's mission is, what our purpose is. We've had about enough of this. And this is why many of us are feeling the way that we're currently feeling. I want to remind you that we're essentially in the void, right? If you think about the birthing canal, do you think it's a pleasant experience for baby or for mama to be birthed into this world? No. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of screaming. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of trauma that comes with birth. And we are essentially birthing a brand new earth, a brand new reality, and it is painful. We are currently in the birthing canal, the void, where we can't go back to the womb where it was all comfy and cozy because we've been awakened. There's action, there's energies pushing us forward, whether we want to go or not. And here we are, we're in this birth canal. We're so pressurized. We're so scared. We can hear things outside of the realm that we're currently at, but we don't know what it means for us. We don't know what's awaiting us. And quite honestly, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of dread. The collective is very confused right now. Regardless of what you think about the Queen, there's different narratives emerging with the announcement of her passing, as legit or unlegitimate as it may be. People are confused. People are being torn in different directions, and that does a number on the collective consciousness that many of us light workers are tapping into. That's why we're waking up in the morning with fear, with anxiety that we don't normally have, because we're picking up on the collective's energy, and it doesn't feel good. But again, just remember that we will feel better when we enter into the equinox energy and we are reset. It's a very emotional time. That full moon in Pisces just ripped us wide open. It was essential. We're wrapping up a chapter. We're wrapping up a series. We're wrapping up some contracts. We need to get open, raw, vulnerable. We have to look at the full circle of what it means to actually end something and not yet begin something. It's a very confusing time. Not to mention, we're in a retrograde, 6 planets in a retrograde, weighted by Earth, my Lord Jesus. This means that not only are we hella confused, but we're being shook up like a snow globe in order to try and break us free of the attachments that had us on a path that was deviating from the path and mission that our soul needs to be on. That's what a retrograde is all about, is realigning us to our energy, to our higher selves, to the path that will reach our soul's highest potential. Many of us desperately holding on to the physical attachments in this world, relationships, titles, possessions that we think are good for us when we don't even know the greater, grander plan that our higher selves have signed us up to. This is where trusting the universe, trusting the process, trusting ourselves come in. Because as a human being, we can only see so far ahead. Our higher self seen the plan long before we even entered these meat suits. We have to trust that our higher selves have put us on the path to reach our fullest potential. And although we may not make sense of it in the here and now from our human perspective, there is going to be a lot of sense made when this is all said and done and we return back to source, to the vibration and frequency that we all are before we come into these physical meat suits. So may I just remind you that a high level of confusion is necessary right before we gain some clarity. May I remind you that you need to be uncomfortable in order to identify where comfort is needed and what that actually looks like. May I remind you, you need to sit in the funk of all of the experiences that are currently no longer working for you in order to create a framework and a construct of the kind of reality that will. There has to be a breakdown before a breakthrough. And this week, it's coming at us full stop. You have to put your, I'm going to say, spiritual armor on and recognize that this is the chapter, this is the process, this is the stage that we're currently in. Yes, lots of arguments going on. Yes, high debate. A lot of that, Mars being in Gemini. Even more than that, Mercury retrograde in Libran energy. We will have Mercury swoop back into Virgo energy here this week. That's its place of power. If you listened to the September energy forecast, you would know that everything falls apart when Mercury is first in Libran energy, and then we solve those problems. We put the pieces back together once Mercury moves back into Virgo energy. This is all a process. But with this process comes a lot of physical symptoms, physical ailments. I shouldn't even have to mention that, existential dread and depression and grief are going to be a thing. That's what we do when we're ending out a chapter and we're not yet beginning a new one. That's a thing when we're confused as hell, when we feel like our lives are being shook up for no good reason. That's a thing. Expect that emotional uncomfortability. Physically speaking, we're still having a lot of pressure in our head. We're having a lot of crown activations, a lot of sinus pressure, a lot of discharge, a lot of ringing in the ears, a lot of pressure behind the eyes, a lot of pressure behind the teeth, a lot of sore gums, swollen gums, bit lip, cut lips, canker sores. We're having a lot of phlegm come up from our chest, come out through our throat. We're having a lot of truth to speak. We're having a lot of, I'm going to say, upper chakra realignment. So from your heart chakra in your chest all the way up to your crown, there's a realignment happening because new information is coming in, activating that heart chakra. All the phlegm, all the discharge, all the uncomfortability in our upper realm of chakras is going to be extreme. The lower chakras, from your heart chakra down to your root chakra at the base of your butt, the base of your spine, those are the lower chakras that hold the old emotions, the fears, the doubts, the lower vibrations and frequencies that our unconscious ego has written into their operating program that we are here to acknowledge, to accept, to integrate, and to heal, to alchemize into something better. Our lower extremities are feeling low and slow. They're feeling very rigid. We're having a lot of aches and pains. We're having a lot of digestive issues. What I will say, the closer we get to the equinox, the more extreme your physical body is going to feel. One side over the other for sure. Even speaking upper versus lower part of your body will be in extreme. We are having to live in extremes, to live in uncomfortability so that peace and balance can be restored when the equinox hits. The digestive issues that we've been having, mostly connected to the fact that we're in Virgo season. Virgo rules over the digestive system, the stomach. It's where we carry a lot of worry, a lot of anxiety. Right below our rib cages, that's our solar plexus. We've been going through solar plexus activations, which means that we're having a lot of gas, a lot of acid reflux, a lot of hiccups, hunger pains that actually feel like your stomach is going to explode, and then you eat, and then you feel hungry still, but you also feel like you're going to explode because now you're sick. This is part of the rebalancing, realignment energies. We are trying to identify where in our bodies there are blockages so that we can address them, so that we can return to a state of realignment, health, and wellness and wholeness. That is what Virgo season is all about. Now, I want to speak very clearly here because many light workers have what I would call chronic illnesses. Most of those chronic illnesses are under the umbrella of central nervous system disorders. The reason why this happens is because as light workers, we are open and activated, sensitive to the solar energy, the electromagnetic frequencies coming in from the cosmos that medicine doctors cannot explain. That's why we get thrown under a collective umbrella of chronic illness or autoimmune issues. Let me just say, if you have any type of chronic illness, autoimmune issue, whatever your diagnosis may be, okay, which is just a label from a non-integrated doctor who only knows how to write prescriptions and has no understanding of integrative medicine and how the mind-body-soul connection actually works. Anyways, I digress. You will likely be experiencing a flare-up this week, especially the closer we get to the 22nd. You will be in extreme discomfort and extreme pain. Let me just remind you that when we reach those crisis degrees of energies, especially in a Virgo energy, which is an earth energy that is connected to the physical body, that is connected to the health and wellness of our physical form, that is ruled over by our mental plane, which at the current moment is down in the dumps, you are going to have a huge flare, not only in your physical symptoms, but the emotions to come along with it, the mental health, I'm going to say, decline that goes along with it. This is again, I'm going to use the word depression. Depression, okay? The pressure is being decompressed within. This is why we have to understand what our physical body needs. This is why we have to nurture our physical bodies back to a state, not of health and wellness in the moment of a flare, but back to a place of natural nourishment. Your body, if you remove yourself from your body, it is a living organism, and our bodies go through a lot of crap. Let me tell you, a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort. Take a moment to just understand what your physical body endures in the run of the day. Detach your mental plane and your emotions from it and just look at what your physical body goes through. And once you've taken that full perspective in, then add your emotions, because our physical bodies hold our emotional compass. That's what makes us light workers, is that we have empathy, we have compassion, we have emotions. And then throw in the mental plane that is hella confused right now, right? That's where we blend our higher self with our lower self, our, I'm going to say, spiritual intellect with our egoic mental intellect, which again, I said the word ego doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. It means that in the mind is where we formulate how to blend our knowledge and our wisdom from our higher selves with our human selves. That is where the internal compass of our intellect comes in. And then when you get the mental plane and the heart space, which is our emotional compass, on the same page, we can do miraculous things in this physical body when the mind, the body, and the soul are all in agreement. What I will say to you is that this week, it's going to be really hard to get all three in agreement. I want you to pay attention to the mind, to the body, to the soul, as if they were three different entities. And I want you to pay attention to which one is asking for your help, for your attention, for your love, for your nurturing, for your nourishment the most. This is time to put our own efforts behind trying to rebalance the scales within. Rebalancing the scales comes with retrogrades. It also comes with Libran energy. It comes with the equinox. So we have to expect that we are going to feel the flare-ups in our physical bodies, in our emotions, in our mental plane, a lot more intensely as we get to that reset equinox button. Now, it may feel like you're living in a very euphoric state of non-reality. You wouldn't be inaccurate, okay? Life is very weird right now. We are having Mandela effects. We are having glitches in the matrix. We are having timeline jumps. As I mentioned, regardless of what it is that you think or feel about the Queen, the differing debates, the timelines, the legitimacy of the actual events, none of that matters. What matters is that the collective is hella confused, experiencing a lot of different emotions being pulled in a lot of different directions. And us awakened ones, we feel all of that. Another reason to practice spiritual hygiene and really enforce and strengthen those spiritual boundaries so that you know what energy is yours and what energy you are picking up on that does not belong to you. That will help in the long run when you are feeling at your craziest point. It is most likely because you have not done the spiritual hygiene that is necessary in order to make sure that you are operating in your own energetic sovereignty and not taking on other people's crap, especially when it comes to the collective. Now, our dream state is hella whack, okay? Whackity, whackity woo. Let me just tell you, what we are experiencing here on this earth plane is merely a mirror, a direct 3D physical manifestation of the outcome of some situations that have already taken place on other realms, astral realms, etheric realms, doesn't matter what you want to call them. There is multiple levels of this multiverse that your existence, your soul, your spirit, your energy operates on. And when we're entering into the sleep realm, if you're lucky enough to be sleeping these days, I should say, if you're lucky enough to be sleeping, if you're lucky enough to enter into a dream realm, you might notice that it has a different feel to it, has a different vibration to it, has a different visual to it. We awaken out of that state in a funk, lower vibrations and frequencies, because the wars are being won on all levels. The war technically has already been won. The light has already won. It's just, we're just so slow ass down here in this 3D realm that it's taken its sweet ass time in order for us to actually see the manifestation of what that looks like when the light has won. And so for many of us, not only are we battling some very serious struggles and hardships in our waking realm, we have other jobs to do in other realms while we sleep. Your astral self, if you will, your soul self is awake, fighting wars on different levels in different dimensions as you sleep. And the whole vibe is different there, because essentially when we jump timelines, there is a reverberatory effect that takes place in all other dimensions, really messing us up, making us feel very super wonky. So walking around in your waking state feels very surreal. Feels like, I'm going to say, a fake bad dream. Then you go to sleep. Suddenly that's a little bit more realer than your waking life. But the content going on there is just as deep, dark, and disturbing as some of the topics and themes coming up for you in your waking life. So one would say, well, when are we going to get a break? Where is our safe place? Where is our, resting realm? That's a good question. I don't think we're there yet. Spiritual war, we don't really get breaks. There are no timeouts. There isn't, 3 different periods with intermissions in between. This isn't a regulatory sport. This is kind of like a big deal where we haven't explored this in humanity's existence yet. The collective consciousness has never gotten to this point of awareness before. We're in uncharted waters, my friends. And I would like to say that the equinox should bring a little bit more stability back, should give us a lot of reprieve, should, reset the scales, both in this realm and other realms. And hopefully that will give us our breaking period as well, our resting period, because from the equinox to the winter solstice on the 21st is a whole chapter all in itself where things get crazy. Why? Because everything that's in a retrograde now comes out of a retrograde, goes direct, and now we have to focus on getting our physical realms in alignment to the spiritual realignment that we're doing while the retrogrades are taking place. We also have eclipse season coming up in October. Again, listen to the forecast if you haven't already. It's going to be a wild ride from now up until the 21st of December. And then when we enter into the solstice energy, we get another gift of a brand new chapter, but that's kind of our time out. That's when we kind of get a break. That's kind of the rest and reflective period before we begin again. When the spring equinox hits, when Aries season happens, when the actual real new year begins. So it's a whole pattern, it's a whole chapter, it's a whole process, it's a whole cycle. And right now we are in the thick of it, my friends. Because I feel like we are in this really weird void state. We have all of this confusion, all of these emotions, all of this, very euphoric reality, I would say. We are feeling the disruption in our physical bodies. Like I said, we're likely going to feel the extremes of physical discomfort, physical pain, one side over the other, upper versus lower, all of that good stuff. The back cracking is going to be extreme. Pain in the back, needing to stretch your back is going to be extreme, because that's Jacob's ladder. That's the recalibration and realignment that's going on first and foremost within our physical bodies, because the cerebral fluid that we have coursing through our spine, taking it all the way up to the crown of our head to that pineal gland, which is the awakener of our physical bodies, if you will, that cerebral fluid carries more and more light codes, more and more information, more and more awareness. And the blockages are coming up for us in our physical bodies are likely going to be concentrated in our spine. Keep your spine flexible, crack that back if you need to, recognize where the pain is, where it is in your physical body. That's going to be a key indicator around that chakra area of what kind of shadows you're actually struggling with. Keep in mind the bloating, the gas, the I'm going to call it regurgitation, if you will. That is a whole thing. Our digestive system is going through a recalibration as well. Again, being in Virgo season, ruling over that particular area of our bodies. No wonder that is in an uproar. But we also carry worry and fear and anxiety in our bodies in that particular area of the stomach. And again, we're going through it right now. There's a lot of unconscious energy coming through the collective that's creating these not so nice thoughts and feelings within us. I want you to pay attention to your lymph nodes. I know it's hard to pay attention to your lymph nodes because we don't usually even know that they're there until there's a problem, but we're going to feel swelling and pressure and bloating and inflammation this week. It's just a matter of fact. Do what you can to keep the fluids to you. Do what you can to massage your lymph node tract and areas. Make sure that you're moving your body, massage your body, dry brushing, dancing around. We want to make sure that the circulatory system is optimal, because that's how we get the detox system going in our body. And the lymph nodes need to carry all the junk out of our bodies, get it out. Now, also keep in mind, hydration is important. Moving into Libra season, we want to focus on the organs that we have two of, specifically the kidneys. And I just want, the lungs as well. We have two arms, we have two eyes, we have two ears, right? You know where I'm going with this. Pay attention to what side over the other side is giving you more grief or feeling, not strong enough. That's where we have to focus our energy. But this week, pay attention to the pain. The pain. Most people run from pain. Pain is our friend. Pain is our indicator. Pain is the messenger that we need to pay attention to, that will return us on the path, on the journey to our healing. We are definitely having to recognize the pain, the discomfort in our physical forms in order for us to address how to fix it. That's what Virgo season is all about. And when we move into Libra season and we take that energy from our physical form and we move it up to the headspace where we can debate the pros and cons and come up with a logical, practical action plan on how it is that we're going to restore peace and balance and harmony in our bodies and in our lives, then October hits, and that's where we can put into action some of these revelations, some of these aha moments that we are definitely putting a lot of thought into. This is a time, again, being in the year of 6, where this is a time to perfect our routines, our diets, the way we take care of ourselves, the way we are of service to ourselves before being of service to other people. That is the topic. That is the theme. And we are definitely going to feel those topics and themes be put on blast as we move closer to Libra season and that button gets hit and reset with the equinox energies. So my friends, I think that's it for me for this week. I think I ranted enough. I so appreciate you sitting with me, for sharing your time, your energy, your space with me. I love the love. I love you being here. I love you supporting each other. I love you commenting on each other's statuses and really helping each other out. I think the biggest thing, as I continue to talk about, is to remind each other that we're not alone in this, that we are all going through it, and that we will all continue to go through it, and we will all end up on the better side of this together as a collective, as a community. You guys are amazing. I thank you so much for the love and support. I thank you for showing up for me, but mostly, I thank you for showing up for yourself. I hope you have a beautiful week. I hope you keep it real, keep it 100%, keep it authentic, and do the work. I'm sending you nothing but love, and we'll talk to you soon.